Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Well, let's do it the Australian way. Good day to you all. Seven continents of the world: Antarctica, Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, South America. Welcome to Atlantic Discuss. It's a Friday meeting. Yes, we discuss politics. I know. Yeah, I know people have asked me what's the difference between startup and innovators and yeah, the channel is Atlantic Discuss, but on the channel you can discuss so many things. Every Friday, we bring a guest here. We talk world politics, African politics, Nigerian politics. That's the difference. But on Wednesdays, Startup and Innovators is majorly for startup and innovators. We showcase the achievement of Africans, Nigerians, Kenyans, people that have distinguished themselves in their career, and that's the difference. So yeah, I mean, there might be other programs in the future. We're thinking of doing something on education and something on sport, but the channel is Atlanta Discuss. So that's why the issue came up. But today, it's another special day. We all know March is International Women's Month, and we need to, talk about our women. They've done so well. Black women, white women, we're celebrating all women. This is not fixed to a particular color. We have to celebrate them. But today we will need to focus on a particular lady of Nigerian origin that's done extraordinary things in recent times. In my own estimate, I think she's actually Nigeria's biggest export at the moment, and that is Kemi Badenoch. So that's why the topic for today is women in leadership, focal point Kemi Badenoch. So now, if we want to discuss Kemi Badenoch, we need to discuss somebody that's also in that mold, someone that has Nigerian history, Nigerian heritage, and of course, the British politician. That's why today we have Siju Adeoye to she's our guest and we're gonna discuss with her everything Kemi Badenoch. Siju Adeoye, welcome to Atlanta Discuss.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you're watching me from, good day.
Good day. Yeah, like they say. Yeah. So, but the point is, I mean, she's actually a member of the Conservative Party in the UK, which makes it easier for us, She has been elected as a councillor in the UK also, so she's how should I qualify you now? She's part of the editorial board of Atlantic Digest. Yeah. So, and she's very vast. She's proud to be a Tory member, a conservative, and all that. So she's the right person to ask about Kemi. Now, in recent days, now we're going jugular straight as usual. In recent days, we've had Kemi tell her stories about growing up in Nigeria, how she ended up in Europe, cases of robbery, how her family nearly went bankrupt, corruption in Nigeria, and all that. I mean, those things to a lot of us are the normal Nigerian story. But she has been attacked, I think, by the vice president and so many other Nigerians that why is she always speaking ill about Nigeria? What's your viewpoint in all this? Do you think they are being unfair to her for saying her story, or you think she just doesn't like Nigeria? How do you view it? Over to you, Shiju.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me today. So as you all know, I'm a Conservative member, and Kemi Badenoch, the Right Honourable um, MP, and also the leader of the opposition party. She's done remarkably well for not just the Conservative Party, but also for people of Nigerian origin in the diaspora. And a lot of people, have mixed feelings about that in terms of her rise, to the status that she is now. And yeah, for some of us, it is a triumphant time in history. Personally, I was one of those people who actually voted in the leadership contest to, get her. So it was one of my votes to get her that leadership win. And I didn't at first, I didn't outright back Kemi from the onset, strangely enough. But what was important for me is to have women in the leadership space, not just that, to have women of color. So it didn't even matter to me who got in. So, but as time went on and listening to everybody's policy agenda, everybody's leadership bid, I started to listen keenly to what Kemi had to say. Not just that, what is her politics? Do I actually understand her politics? So I wanted to understand what her politics is, what is her stance on, policy issue. And the more I listened, the more I was interested, and the more I thought, we have a gem right here, that is unfolding right before our eyes. Not just that, I had the opportunity to listen to the debate, the final leg, which was on GB News. I had the opportunity to be in the audience, actually listening to her live as to, sharing her visions, her goals, and I thought, wow. This is a remarkable woman. She has the technical know-how. She has so it's not just somebody that knows the what or what needs to be done, but actually she knows the technical know-how. And she was able to get that across to her audience, or the people, that were going to vote for her, that very period of time. I thought it was fascinating. Perhaps, it was her background being an engineer, as well. Maybe that helped. But she was, very intelligent, and she still is very intelligent. And right now, where things are with the party, she is an effective opposition leader, which is what the party needs right now. And who better, was picked, than Kemi Badenoch, on that fateful, fateful last year, where we had the election, campaign. So, within the party. So, but then her rise to power gave mixed feelings. There are people who feel that, yes, she's of Nigerian origin, but bearing in mind she's British. She was born in Wimbledon in London to Nigerian parents, and she only spent part of her life, her childhood, in Lagos, Nigeria, before, returning to the UK at the age of 16. So people expected that because she's of Nigerian origin, she should be fighting the Nigerian cause, or not just the cause, also to be the PR for Nigeria, to be the ambassador for Nigeria, because she has risen to the status, that she has risen to. Bearing in mind that it's not the Nigerians that put her there. It is her party, which is a British party, that put her in that position, that role. So suddenly, we of Nigerian origin are now laying claim, to her rise, that, oh, because she's now where she is now, therefore she must fight the cause for Nigeria. Not just that, she must also be the PR for Nigeria, which I think is not quite right, because at the end of the day, she didn't get to where she is on the back of her wanting to be the PR for Nigeria. Neither did she got there because she wanted to, fight for the cause for Nigeria. She was there because her party, the Conservative Party, in British politics, elected her to be where she is. Bear in mind, these are members of the party, of the British politics, that elected to where she is. So now all of a sudden we want to give her the mandate to be fighting Nigerian cause. And I think that's not quite right or quite fair for us to put her in that predicament or that position, that she ought to do this and therefore she must do this. And rightly so, she has decline that role, the unofficial role that people wanted to put on her shoulder. So that's just one part. The other part is now when, because of her origin, of course, in interviews, like you're just interviewing me, people will ask you questions, about your origin or your affiliation, that sort of questions. And every time she's asked in an interview by journalists, about her origin, she can only speak the truth, number one. Number two, she can only speak from her experience. And that she was forthright. Anybody that knows Kemi, even before the Nigerian saga, knows that she is the person that is very forthright. She doesn't she doesn't use any gimmicks or anything like that. She says it exactly how it is. Your famous line on Atlanta Discuss is no holds bar. So she tells it exactly how it is. So rightfully so, if she's been interviewed, she will say exactly what her experiences were growing up in Nigeria. Should she have lied about it? Absolutely not. Is it her responsibility? Absolutely not. It is high time. And I think it was a reflection of how, that the nation, the state of the nation, and what the leaders now need to do to rise up to the occasion.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, like I always say, it's a discussion. So we also have an opinion on some of these things. Yeah. I think I agree. And I think the first thing I said when we started was that I think she's actually Nigeria's biggest export right now. I think if anything, I thought they should be proud of her. Most people of Nigerian origin that are in the diaspora, they've all been victims of Nigeria one way or the other. So I don't think anything, I mean, it's not productive, just castigating her. But the key question they always ask is that she hates Nigeria. But I think from what you've said is that she's just saying it the way it is. Okay. Now, since we're talking, it's International Women's Month, we're talking Kemi Badenoch, and do you think she'll be Madam Prime Minister one day?
Absolutely. She has all the pedigree that you could ever expect. She has a degree in computer systems engineering from University of Sussex, also law from Birkbeck College, University of London. She's done well for herself. And before she entered, into politics, she was a software engineer, and also she later joined the banking sector. So she has really, really, when it comes to the experience, the pedigree, she really, really has been there, done it all, got the t-shirt. Not only that, ministerially, when she, our party was in government, she had ministerial role. And she's the kind of person, because what really, really impressed me about her is that she knows her brief back to back. There's no question you're going to question her on her brief. She will tell you exactly what it is, and it's rare to find ministers that knows their brief back to back. So she's that type of person that is knowledgeable, that knows that has the technical know-how and in-depth knowledge, not just the, overview of how things work or how things operate. She actually deep dives into some of the issues, while she was minister, and that has given her the ability, to cross, check, her opposition, when they are having, in the dispatch box, when they're having those debates, during PMQ. That's what gives her the ability, to be able to have an effective opposition and effective scrutiny. So yes, with all that, I think she's skilled. She's armed enough, that when that time comes, she will be PM.
About the party seems divided now. The Conservative Party seems divided. The Reform people, a lot of people have left the Conservative Party for the Reform. Yes, some left even before she came into power, but it does look like chances of becoming PM is slim because of the Reform Party. Is there anything going on to reunite and make everybody come together? I mean, personally, I would love to see her become PM, but the reform is going to be a big problem. Don't you think so?
I doubt it very much because, as we all know, if you look at the history of reform and the parties that they formed prior to that, they've always been this one-hit wonder, So yes, they talk the talk, but can they really walk the walk? Time's yet to tell us, But when we talk about the longevity of the Conservative Party, they have been the longest. If you look at the history of British politics, they have been the longest in power. Yes, even the last rule, shall I say, the last government that we had, well before this, it was good, good tenure that we had. Unfortunately, things happened along the way, which you can't help. There were economic downturns. There were issues with immigration, which we're going to come to at some point, I'm pretty sure. Those are the key things that has been or continuously been an obstacle for us as a people. And people are wanting stronger stands, when it comes to, for instance, the immigration that I just mentioned few minutes ago. They want stronger stance on immigration, but when we talk about immigration, we're also talking about human beings and human capital in all this process. So how do you juggle, the nuance, or shall I say, how do you really look into the nuances of what's happening on the immigration front and effectively be able to have a strong stance? So hence the reason why some of our, party members, not just members, we had politicians as well, crossing the carpet and joining the Reform Party because of what has happened. They felt that the Reform Party had a stronger stance and a stronger view on some of these issues, and we didn't, and some of them feel that, okay, us coming in now saying this and that is rather late. When in fact we should have done that, 14 years ago, or or for the past 14 years, that sort of thing. But if there are nuances to these things, there are difficulties, there are laws, there are laws that you have to work within those frameworks, not just the English law, you're talking about, the European law as well, that, and, we all know that we came out of Brexit as well. So some of these things have been a challenge, over the years that we are where we are now. So it's a matter of, okay, where do we go from here? And how do we effectively um, implement some of these policies that the people are, eager, to see that those policies are in place, but there are challenges, as I've mentioned, to these types of issues.
Okay, let's go to immigration. You mentioned it. Yeah, she said something about she said it should take 15 years for people to get naturalized to be British citizens. And
Mhm.
yeah, and of course, hue and cry from Nigerians and why 15 years? What she talking? Why she cry more than the bereaved and all that? So, I mean, if she's your party leader. Why 15 years? Do you agree?
Right, right. So I say this, and this is the fight that I have. I think I fight with everybody. I know almost everybody in WhatsApp groups on this immigration issue, particularly when it comes to the Nigerian community. We've got to remember that immigration is not about Nigeria. Nigerians are not the only immigrants in the United Kingdom or around the world. So we've got to accept that fact that we're not the only ones. So when they're talking about immigration policies, they're not particularly targeting Nigerians. Immigration, the immigrant community comprises of um, various countries. In fact, when we had the recent consensus, I think when I looked at it, Nigeria came fifth. There are more people of immigrant origin from India, from Pakistan, from Poland, that's Eastern Europe, Ireland. I think Nigeria came about the fifth place. So when we're now trying to put ourselves at the center of all this debate, when in fact that we're not even the majority when it comes to this immigration issue, it beckons beliefs for me that, you know what, Nigerians, stop. This is not about you. This is about the whole immigration policies. I mean, everybody can testify to this that we are overpopulated. I live in Medway, for instance, and Medway is getting, a bit crowded with people, and I love people. And yes, the more the merrier, I guess. But can we really effectively have services to meet everybody's needs? I'm talking about school weights. When it comes to putting your child in school, I know many parents now that they're homeschooling because there aren't school places for their children. So this is what immigration, when you have overpopulated area, you look at schools, you look at doctors. I cannot remember the last time I saw my doctor, what we call GP, general practitioner, here in the United Kingdom. I cannot tell you the last time I saw my GP
Why?
face
Why
to
is that?
face,
Why?
because there are too many people
Hmm.
wanting to see the doctors.
Oh, you don't
There's
have enough, or could it be that you don't have enough doctors?
Well, that as well, well, because we have the health tourism issue as well, where we have our experts that have migrated,
Mhm.
to other countries where they are also better paid. So we're talking about the Middle East, for instance. We see a lot of, mass health tourism in that area. But at the same time, there have been policies to invite high-skilled workers, such as your, medical doctors and nurses and stuff, to come into the country, and that door has opened in the last 5 years, and that was under because people forget that that's under the conservative government. That's not even from the Labour government. The so-called what we call jackpa,
Mm.
the mass jackpa syndrome actually came from the Conservative government because we needed those skills. We don't have those skills. Those were encouraged, but Nigerians are not looking at the fact that even on the Conservative, they have been able to enter the country more than they will under Labour. But that's another debate, another story, to talk about another time. But what am I trying to say is that there aren't GP places, hospital waits, or if you have operations, the queues are long, school waits, getting spaces for your child education, my list goes on. So if we have all this lack of spaces or lack of money to actually provide these services to people, then you have to think about, are we overcrowded? Are we overstretched? Is the resources stretched? And how can we cope? And the best thing that, the country, any country, even the Labour government is looking at cutting back immigration. So unfortunately, it's her voice that is vocal. She's not the one in power, or her party is not even the one in power making the policies. It's actually Labour, and nobody's actually looking into that. That is actually Labour in power. They are the one who are making the cutbacks at the moment, and nobody is looking at that. So it's very interesting that, because she's Nigerian, they expect that, okay, you're Nigerian, you should you should open the doors wider. And you shouldn't be, thinking about making this rule or that rule on immigration.
Interesting. So, still, let's still on immigration. So, what she said is that people can migrate, but it should take them at least 15 years before they get their
Mhm.
citizenship. Why do you think? I mean, I understand what you're trying to say. The country is overpopulated and all that, but I mean, you need the skilled people. You can't expect a doctor comes now, and they wait for 15 years. That's what people are saying, that 15 years is either you're trying to discourage them or you stop them, and if they're qualified to be it, why not 5 years? Why 15? I think that's the bone of contention there, so that could even make the Conservative Party lose votes of some, people
Oh,
that
well, let's wait and see whether
because
that will make us
yeah.
lose votes
Yeah, because
because
some of the critics are
Mhm,
of African
mhm,
origin too. I'm talking
sure.
Zimbabweans,
Mhm.
Ghanaians, even mostly Nigerians. That what's her problem? That she should not be, that she's crying more than the bereaved, that she's black, that a lot of people believe the Conservative Party is racist. I don't know about that, but they're just using her to score a point that when push comes to shove, they'll push her out and will not allow her be PM. Do you think that those are things that
I totally disagree with that line of thinking. There has to
why
be
do you disagree?
a cap.
Hmm.
There has to be a strict numerical cap on immigration, whether we like it or not. And it's
Okay.
not targeted at a particular group of people, whether you're Nigerian, you're Zimbabwe, or whatever country you're coming from. It's not targeted at a particular group of people. And to call it racist, I think that's a bit far-fetched because it's not targeting at a particular people. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are trying to make it to be a Nigerian issue, Nigeria actually comes fifth,
Hmm.
if not sixth, when it comes to the immigrant community, where they sit in when we talk about the population, the number of people from other countries in this country. So Nigerians that are trying to make it about them, I think is totally wrong. Just because they want to pick a beef, with Kemi for whatever reason, because they feel she should be fighting their cause and she's not, and because of some of the conversations she's had in past interviews when she was asked about her stance on her country of origin. So it's not fair to mumbo jumbo the issues together. There are nuances to immigration policies or the immigration framework. Every government has struggled with this issue from the time of when Thatcher was there to when John Major was there, moving on to Tony Blair, coming down to the coalition government with David Cameron, and when we now we're in full power up to now, that has been a subject of contention over the years in terms of can we actually cope. Britain is a small island. it's not, in comparison to countries like USA, it's a very small island and it cannot take the number of people. So I've given you the example where even in my local area, where services are stretched, where resources are not actually reaching down, to, the common person, you know, at the end of the day, if they have to do that, they have to do, every country has the right to protect its citizens and its resources. And I think we've had this conversation in past interview that you and I had in the past as well, that the onus is for each country to go and do what they're supposed to do for their country. If they started to look inward, look after their own people, maybe there won't be a mass exodus of people having to leave for economical reasons. I get it if it's because of refugee, if it's because you're seeking, asylum, you're seeking safety in another country. I get all those. We have to protect people and human rights has to be upheld. However, when it comes to economic reasons, there's so much any country can do, and every country in the Western world are trying to tighten, their borders. America is doing the same. UK is doing the same. France is doing the same. Germany is doing the same. Every country is trying to, wherever people are looking that, okay, it's a haven, there's an El Dorado there, you know, everybody is trying to protect, their resources so that, the resources get to everybody. But if we have too many people, unfortunately, the resources, and then people will start complaining that, oh, things are hard, oh, and people are already doing that. If you notice that people that are already jackpot, that, that so-called jackpot word, that are already, they've migrated, they've come here, they're finding it extremely difficult. Why? Because the resources that they were expecting to reach them is actually not reaching them. But there
Mm.
isn't enough to stretch to reach them. So you have to be able to pour into the system in order for you to get back from the system. So if you've not contributed, in tax, you can't expect that, when it comes to now you getting free health. And the reason why people come here at the end of the day is because the health is free. We have the NHS, whether you're rich or poor, health is free. You can't go to America and get your health for free. UK is the only country, so far as I know, in the world that actually gives free health service. And people want to tap into that, but there have to be stricter rules.
I'll have to interject you there, and the reason is that
Yes, sir.
you said UK is a small island and all that,
Yep, yep,
but
yep.
they're a colonial superpower. I mean, there was the British Empire was like a Leviathan some years back. They colonized more than half of the countries in the world. I'm talking in practically half of Africa, most of Asia, and all that. So the size might not be an issue, but what I'm trying to ask you now is on Brexit, because I know Kemi Badenoch supported Brexit, the British exit from I mean, from the EU with benefit of hindsight now. Do you think Britain needs to go back, considering everything happening in world politics vis-a-vis America? It's looking like, the United States is shying away from the EU. Everyone wants America to be on its own. Britain has to man up. And for Britain to man up, Britain cannot man up on its own. They still need their flanks. And flanks in this regard means France, Italy, and all that.
I beg to differ. I think we can stand alone, and we have proven that we have been able to stand alone. At the end of the day, the people voted for Brexit,
Mm.
even though it was a close call. But at the end of the day, this is the power of democracy being exercised, and the people's will was upheld. Now, saying to now go back is saying that, well, democracy doesn't count, squash that, let's do this. No, I think, once people voted, I think, and that's the power of democracy. Unlike, the countries that you've mentioned, earlier on in our conversation, I'm not going to name names, but democracy is non-existent. When the people have voted, that is upheld. So we can't go back. It will take time to fully be running, but I believe that we are up on our feet. We are walking. We may not necessarily be running as fast as we should, but we are getting there, So, and there are things that, Badenoch, she really, really fought for in terms of free trade, free markets, free trade, drawing inspiration from, the former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She done well in those sense. And, unfortunately, that leg of work was cut short because we had to go into election, and now we're in opposition. But, I'm pretty sure given the chance again, or, who knows, um, she'll be able to put things back. Her policies are strong, on, the her economic policies are very, very strong because she has the experience to do so.
All right, so a bit of a digression based on what you said. You said
Mhm.
you don't want to mention names of country that are not democratically transparent. I'm sure you probably
Mhm. Mhm.
about Nigeria, so but you didn't want to, well, I have. And then I mean it's common knowledge that Nigerians election are usually free but not fair. But right now they're not free and they're not fair. It's just what it is. We all will want it to be free and fair one day, and we hope we get there. But recently, it's International Women's Month. That's why we're having this discussion.
Yes,
Kemi
yes.
Badenoch is the focal point, but in the Nigerian Senate, a certain Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan accused the Senate President of Nigeria of sexual harassment. I'm sure you've read the story.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and it's looking like I think she submitted a petition, and it was referred to the committee of Nigerian Senate Committee on Ethics and what have you. And I think the first thing the chairman of that committee, who is also from the Labour Party opposition member, is that she should not have signed it by herself. It was not properly written. So technically speaking, that petition will be thrown out from all indication. Now, substantiating argument coming out, it's common in the African system that women come out and talk about harassment and all that. But in the Natasha Akpoti's case, what do you think should be the response of the Nigerian Senate to her accusation? I mean, from your point
To,
of view.
to start with, the person in question should have been suspended. Why is he still sitting there?
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it's still an allegation.
when in every party, political party, even here in the United Kingdom, if there has been an allegation of misbehavior, misdemeanor, or anything found that it's not appropriate for a public person, because we go by the Noland rule or Lowland code of conduct, in terms of public life, public service. Now, if there are allegations and there are strong evidence pointing towards that direction, what usually happens is that that political party, where that person is standing or representing, actually suspends the individual. Nobody's above law, nobody's above suspension. So you are suspended whilst investigation is being carried out to verify, the facts and whether or not it is true you did this or you did that. That should have been the protocol for the party. If not, the public service the person is sitting at should have suspended him. That what, step back, even the individual should have the decency, the dignity to step back. It's because a country like Nigeria, people are power hungry, you know, money mongers, power mongers, that kind of thing. That at every cost I must be here, and I will be here, and my rule, my way, the highway. And it's also a society where patriarchal rule, rules the, how do they say, rules the rules the way, so to speak. So it's not fair that somebody has to come in, day out, having to carry out their public life and having to face such a demeaning, degrading way to carry out their public life. And rightfully they should have suspended him, investigated. If it's found out that he was innocent, then you reinstate him. But
Mm.
if not, you go as far as, criminalizing the offense if you have to, because it depends if the offense is a criminal issue in Nigeria, that is, because somewhere here it would have been a criminal issue. but I don't know what the laws are in Nigeria, but, and let the law takes its course, whatever it is that they do over there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to happen clearly, but can you imagine a scenario where a former senator, that's Senator Itagiwa, a sitting senator representing the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Senator Kingibe, they both came out and, they didn't speak in favor of Senator Akpoti. There was a third woman, a senator to, I think, Senator Olujimi, all women. One
I mean,
mentioned,
it
yes.
it's sad, it's sad that, the famous saying, my gender, it's sad that my gender, we are the enemies of ourselves, basically, and it's still in this day and age, we are not supporting one another. In this day and age, we are looking to pull the other person down. In this day and age, a success of somebody is a threat, to another woman. If a woman's crown is slightly, tilted, the job of the other woman is to fix that woman's crown, and let it sit properly. But no, because of, the competitiveness, unfortunately, and everybody, still, power mongering, all the way through, including the women, sadly, they will not see that, okay, this thing, the issue you've raised here is of importance. It needs to be investigated. We stand by you. Let's see that, there's justice served, you know, imagine if that happened to their own female child. How would they feel? And by the way, harassment is not just a gender-based thing. Men equally get harassed. So regardless of the gender, imagine if you were the person in that shoes, facing sexual harassment. You will want to see justice, and it's sad that justice is not upheld, or in fact, it's not even looked into, investigated to start with, which is quite sad, But at the end of the day, I still think that Nolan's principle, should be exercised not just in the Western world, but also in countries like Nigeria. We need to begin to see those principles of how to carry out, or conduct your public life, what you need to be doing. You are, in an elected position, privileged position. The people put you there, and you must ensure that you're serving it to the utmost with integrity, and with clear conscience that what, I'm doing right by the people, and not just self-serving, narcissistic way of doing things, and it's my way or the highway.
Thank you so much. Now, there's a lot going on in world politics, Ukraine, Russia, US, and all that, and your Prime Minister Starmer was in United States last week, and he's offered so much for Ukraine, more money, billions, aircraft support, and all that. Now, as a Tory member yourself, Conservative Party, which is what the Tory is, and what you think your party will have done in this instance? Will you have told the line of the Labour Prime Minister, or you'll have done things differently?
We don't toe anybody's line. We toe our own line, as you
And
know.
what would be that line in this
Okay,
race?
so you've got to remember when the invasion when it first kicked off. That was in 20, if I'm correct,
Three
20
years ago.
2022, 2023, wasn't it?
Yes,
When it first started. Conservative were the ones in power at the time, and we stood by Ukraine, by every possible means that we could afford, we did. You know, Unfortunately, we were going through our own issues. Brexit played a lot of part in that, coming out of EU, so on and so forth, but we still stood by, we opened our doors, particularly in Medway here where I live. We opened doors to, I can't remember the exact numbers of Ukraine families that were refugees that now settled in the United Kingdom. Remember, it's the Conservative Party that gave instant citizenship to the Ukraine refugees. It was instant. They had access to public funds, They had recourse to benefits. Where we couldn't house them, there were families that were willing to open their doors, and they did. They opened their doors to families to come and live with them until they got on their own feet. So I think we went over as a government, we went over and above and beyond to be accommodating to Ukraine families. Unfortunately, the situation continued to escalate. We thought by now peace would have been reached, there would have been treaties signed, but we know how these things work and how these things happen. Every country, I'm not naming countries, but has their own interest in all this matter. And everybody, even though they're pretending that they are fighting for, they actually are trying to secure and protect their own interests. It's sad that things are still happening and the way it is right now. But in terms of how the conservative government had handled it, I think we went over above and beyond in accommodating, and they're still in our country, warmly welcome. And you can see the demonstration of our king, King Charles the Second. You saw the way he, second, the third, you saw the way in which he embraced Zelensky when he came to this country. So warmly, welcome. Number of meetings were held, summits were held. I think the one thing I would love to see out of all of this is Ukraine also joining the NATO. I think that's also would be helpful, in terms of ways forward. But I leave it for now.
All right. So we're here for Kemi Badenoch. It's International Women's Month. So I'm like, Kemi Badenoch's achievement, do they align with the values and goals of the International Women's Month overall?
Absolutely, because her principles, she has always emphasized her principles as personal responsibility. She's also emphasized on citizenship. She emphasizes on equality. She's big on family, big on truth advocating, renewal grounded in these values, basically. So in terms of what she has been doing and able to do, yes, a lot of people don't understand her, but I think if they take time to listen and listen carefully, they will understand her politics and where she's coming from. But she has been able, remember, she was minister for women, as well as, equality. So who else should we be celebrating? A former minister for women's, equality. She done a fantastic job when she had that brief before moving on to other areas, other ministerial areas. So yes, we applaud her, for the role that she's done when she was appointed as Minister for Equalities in 2020. And she managed that, and she oversaw a lot of equalities initiative that we are benefiting from today.
So do you think with the position she's holding right now, leader of opposition, that's the leader of the Conservative Party, from your estimate, from your viewpoint, do you think it will create room for other people like yourself, you know,
Absolutely.
rise
She's
up?
Yeah, she's inspiring, for me, she's the first Black woman to
Interesting.
actually lead, a major political party. Never been seen before, never heard of, never seen before. So that alone is a remarkable achievement, and that says a lot to a lot of young Black girls. So we talk about International Women's Month, and the theme for this month is accelerate action, for
Mm.
particularly for girls. How can we pave the way? How can we make way for girls? Her journey is an inspiration, particularly for young Black girls, that if Kemi Badenoch can actually rise to this height, I can also do it. I have a daughter, and at a very young age, she's been interested in politics. She submitted public questions, to the local, council for full council meetings. In her school, as young as she was at the age of 6, she was elected as school counselor, and she has continued to represent, in school councils, even into her, secondary school times. So it's things like this that is an aspiration that if she can do it, every other woman can do it. So this is what we're talking about, accelerating action. So if she if she was accelerated there, which I believe she has been, you know, it would tell other girls, other young girls that, you know what, we can also accelerate them. They probably won't have to go round and round the circle that she has. She has paved the way. She has broken, shall I say, the fallow ground. She's watered it. She's made it fertile. That other young girls coming behind her can also do the same and probably, achieve even greater heights, even more. If it's not her, there are people behind her that that will do it and will do it. But she has done something that we all ought to applaud, whatever our political alliance may be. Is something that is remarkable, and we need to applaud her for it, particularly in this International Women's Month.
Interesting. Yeah. Just to add to what you said, I think she's done very well. I've said it like twice already. I think she's Nigeria's best export right now. So it would be in the interest of Nigeria as a country to actually support her because she can be prime minister. I mean, it's not cast in stone, but I mean, it does look like it will happen. That's why I asked you the question that I hope when push comes to shove, you guys won't throw her by the wayside and the conservative will have a white person become PM. But you've said it, she's doing a good job. And I think,
I, I yeah, I don't think it's about race. Well, I know the race
no,
issue
no,
has
I'm
come
I'm
into
telling
it.
you
Yeah.
what people have said. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah. And I
that
want Nigerians to hear this and hear this clearly, that it's not even about race. It's about who's also fit for the job, who merits the job, and you just never know, what she will do. Yes, there are strong stance on immigration and everything, but how about, those people that actually live in the country, what she's able, the policies she's able to push for the betterment, for you. But it's not about us. It's not about you. It's about the wider community. It's about the wider country and the people who she represents that have elected her into the position, be it the prime minister, so she's there to serve the people. And that's everybody that has voted for her and not voted for her. So yeah.
Okay, my last question to you is this, because it's International Women's Month. So can you
Yeah.
share with us a list of women that I mean that are worth celebrating, in your lists? I'm sure I have a list. I mean, I can come up with people. Of course, I'll call Okonjo Iweala and all that, but
You're stealing from my list.
okay. Let me leave.
I
It's
tell you what, there's one woman that actually, I find her fascinating. Again, people may not understand her politics, is Bad Girl Millie. From I think, she's there challenging the patriarchal society there is in Kenya, East Africa, where she sits as one of their lawmakers over there. I think her story is worth looking into. She's an institution to be studied. And the way she goes about her politics and challenging people, she's vocal, she's outright, but that's what's needed for the time and the place where she has been appointed. So yeah, so it's interesting to watch her. She's amusing, but then there are serious issues that she actually tackles, and she should be applauded for that. And there are many, many, many others. So yeah, there's Jacinda, I didn't, that, from New Zealand. I think she was also a remarkable, the New Zealand Prime Minister, even the former Prime Minister, which I had a privilege to meet from New Zealand, Helen Clark, another amazing woman. She almost got the United Nations Secretary General role, but she didn't get it. Again, given to a man, but we like Antonio, nevertheless. But there are remarkable women around the world. You mentioned Ngozi there. Chidima is another wonderful lady who's a poet. The
as
new
Chimamanda Adichie.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, and old school, if you want to go as far back as old school, we have Maya, Angelou, wonderful. Another great woman that I had the privilege to meet one to one, face to face when she came to London, and that's in 1999. So the list goes on. There are women, that have, walked this space for us um not only walked this space, but created space for us to be where we are. Rosa Parks is another. If we want to go far, far, far back, and if you want to go to Nigeria, because they will say that I did mention, I think I mentioned two Nigerians already. There's Moremi as well, So I mean, everywhere you look, I think the point is everywhere you look, everywhere we turn, women are doing amazing job. My mother, and then let me not forget my mother, she's an amazing leader. She's held her own. She's a tough cookie. Even in her, even in her elder state, she's a matriarch, and she's a force to be reckoned with, and she holds she hold no holds bar for her. She's very forthright, so there are amazing women, my grandmother, as well, my both my maternal and paternal grandmother, incredible, storytellers, so the list goes on. Everywhere you look, people you surround yourself with. My daughter, amazing politician in her own right, as young as she is, doing fantastic work. So the list goes on. Everywhere you look, there are women doing amazing job, and it's time to celebrate them and make a way for them, so we're not just restricted to the bedroom, or the dining room. We are also, we're confident and we can hold our own even in the boardroom, so wherever we find ourselves, we can make it happen.
Yeah, so let me just mention one name that I find very fascinating. A lot of people might not have heard of her. She was the very first female leader of any country. Her name is Siri Mavo Bandaranaike.
Wow.
Yeah, Prime Minister of Ceylon. Then Ceylon is called Sri Lanka now. You know,
Wow. Wow.
when you ask people, most people think Indira Gandhi was the first female prime minister, but it was actually Siri Mavo Bandaranaike.
Wow.
And Sri Lanka, it was colonized by Britain. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, she was very strong. And even until recent times, there were a lot of Bandaranaikes that held public office in Sri Lanka. I'm sure if we check Sri Lanka, there will be people bearing that name still in politics. But
Amazing.
yeah, Siri Mavo.
I look forward in reading that
Oh yeah, check it out.
in
Siri,
your newspaper,
yeah.
since we're speaking to the publisher of
Yeah.
Atlantic
No
Digest.
problem. It will be there, I
We-
promise you. So,
yes.
Siribabu Bandra Nike, yes. And, also I think I like Indira Gandhi too, but Sirimavo, when you see women in that Indian, Sri Lankan, that Asian, space, occupy a post and stand firm. Was it in Bangladesh they removed one woman recently? I think she overstayed her own time, but Srimavo was a towering image, and she was there. She rose, high and above. And, I think if Indira Gandhi was alive, really, if you ask her, she'll tell you that she was looking at Srimavo Bandaranaike.
Amazing.
I learned about her, I must have been 10 or 12, and I never forgot Srimavo
Wow.
Bandaranaike.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was called, name of the country then was Ceylon. That's
Ceylon.
yeah, that's Sri Lanka's former name is now Sri Lanka. So Siju Adeoye, thank you for coming to Atlanta
Thank
this.
you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
We never know, you two could be Madam PM, we never know. We never know. Yeah. So
Watch this
yeah,
space.
yeah. Kemi Badenoch has set the ball rolling.
Oh, she's my leader.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
love my
know.
heart.
I
I
know.
love my
So
heart.
she's an inspiration to a lot of people and to our
Yes.
friends, brothers in Nigeria. Take it easy on Kemi, and I think we really have to.
Yes, so
This Madam PM. She
you
could be
know,
Madam PM, man. And at that
absolutely.
time, if it so happened, Nigeria
Yeah.
is going to need her. You understand? Nigeria is going to need her because most of those things she's saying, nobody has actually said their lies. Nobody has
It-
said that. Yeah, it's just painful that somebody high up the ladder with international attention is saying it the way it is. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
can't be
yeah.
you
But
can't be running election and economy the way we do and not expect people to talk about it. You understand?
yeah, yeah.
And on Senator Oduaga, I wish her luck. I respect her boldness. I think
Mm,
whichever way it ends, eyes are on the Senate president because somebody else had said something like that in the past. Some woman that used to be a director in NDDC. So there's a
mm,
pattern,
mm.
and even if they sweep this under the carpet, it's almost impossible not to have a third woman. That's if
Exactly.
leaders don't come forward.
I
So
pray not. I
yeah,
pray not.
yeah.
But yes, you never know these
It's
things.
just not fair. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that even if there are allegations, she should be heard, you know,
Mm,
give people that all righteousness has been fulfilled. That's what smart people do. That's a moral thing to do. And
that's right.
and after all, the Senate president is just primus inter pares. That's his first among equals.
That's
They are
right.
all elected, 109 of them, three from each state, one from the federal capital. So that's our take from Atlanta discussion. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So all our viewers, thank you. That's a wrap. That's a wrap for today. See you next week, Friday, for another round of political discussion on Atlanta Discuss. You never know what our next guest will be. Maybe we're still in March, so it could be another woman. Thank you. God bless you all. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.